help sitting more comfortably. Now, once you lie down, you can close your eyes and start to drop your attention into your body. And you can begin by taking in information through the skin, taking the temperature of the air and the ground, noting the texture of your clothing, and sense into the pressure points of where your body meets the floor. You may even notice if one side feels a little heavier or lighter, or possibly if one side sits higher or lower. And there's no need to adjust that, but just notice, becoming familiar with your own patterns. Unhinge the jaw. Relax behind the eyes, behind the ears. Smooth across your eyebrows. And soften all the muscles beneath your scalp. And notice your breath in its natural state. And begin to naturally or gently draw the breath out. And you might even play with building a more spherical breath, building a more global breath. You may notice at what point do you start to feel restricted with breath. Where is it easy to breathe into and where is it a little more challenging? And as you continue your mindful breathing, if you have an intention for your class today, you can set that here. And I'll offer the collective intention of deep listening. Listening to the body, the breath. Listening to what your own unique needs are. And we'll begin. Let's slide the feet in so that they're close towards your hips and about outer hip width distance apart. Arms can come to cactus. On your inhale, arch your spine so you're turning your tail up towards your shoulders. So if I was there, I could slide my hand under your low back and clear it. Chin toward the chest. And you can also drop the balls of your feet so that your heels get light. This is our inhale. Take a full breath into the low belly. Exhale, round your spine, turn your tail up towards your knees. Your hips might leave the floor an inch or two, but not too high. Don't get too carried away. Now tilt your chin up and back, so you're opening the front of the throat, opening in the neck. Now press the elbows down into the ground. And as you do this, you'll feel your entire back body just light up and come online. This is our exhale movement. Pull out the air. We'll take a few rounds with the breath. Inhale, arch your spine, chin towards the chest. Exhale, round your spine. Tilt your chin back, elbows press down. And take a few of these on your own. Enjoying this cranial sacral rock. As you do this, you may feel the weight shift in your feet so that on your inhales, you're in the balls of the feet. On your exhales, you're more in the heels. And those of you that have done this before and are more familiar with this movement, you might give a little more attention to your upper back. See if you can guide the movement or the sensation, maybe the breath, into that upper back region. Take your time. After your next exhale, you can pause, be still for a moment. Now feel your feet on the floor and take the curve out of your low back. So you're pressing your low back toward the floor. Now, without leaving the ground, lift your right foot. So it's almost like you have a big piece of gum holding your right foot to the floor. So you're lifting the right foot, but it's not leaving the ground. It's just almost hovering or just getting a little bit lighter. You might feel your core wake up quite a bit. And then finally, let your right foot break free of the ground and lift a few inches up and away. Just a few inches, which is, I feel, is more challenging than lifting it up quite high. And we're holding for just a moment. Set it back down so it hovers just above the ground, just above the ground. Hold. And then set it down completely. Drop the effort. Quite a bit of work there in the core. Other side, flatten out your low back. Take your attention to your left foot. Without leaving the ground, lift your left foot. So it's almost like a big old piece of gum or like a movie theater floor is all sticky and keeping your foot on the ground. But you're still doing the work as if it were lifting. Notice where you feel the sensation here. If you're tightening your shoulders or your armpits, drop them down. Instead, work with your belly. And then finally, you're able to break free of that stickiness and lift your foot just a few inches up, maybe 2, maybe 3. Feel the shaking, the quivering in the core. Rest the back of your head if you can, no tensing there. Last breath or 2. And set it down just so it hovers right above the floor. Slight hover, hold, and then drop completely. Whew. We are nice and warmed up in the core now. All right, go ahead and drop your right leg out to the side. Let it flop open. Actually, come back to center. Scratch that. Sorry about that. Come back to center. Flatten your low back first. So take the curve out of the low back. Now we can start to flop that left leg open to the side. And I'm only opening my leg as much as I can while keeping my low back engaged on the ground. It's quite a challenge. Nice, then you might get to the point where it's just kind of flopped. All right, let your top leg follow. Same direction, but not on top, please. More next to or beside, kind of a zigzag pattern. Now reach your right arm straight up overhead, stretching through the tips of your fingers. Big reach through the side body. Take an inhale into your low belly. Exhale, come on back to center. Flatten out your low back. Keep that and start to slowly drop your right leg open to the side. You're only going as low as you can while keeping the low back connected. Pausing there for just a moment, feel the weight of gravity resisting against the right leg. And then you can release. Go ahead and take the opposite leg to the side as well. So you've got your little zigzag formation going on. And at this point, your low back will lift up off the ground. So as both legs are there, that's all good if they lift. Once the legs are dropped and heavy, slide your left arm straight up. You're keeping that left arm close to the ground. Even the tips of the fingers are reaching. Go ahead and fill up your low belly with air on the inhale. Exhale, slide on back to center. So you can continue with that movement, or I'll give you the opportunity to add a side bend, and that's totally optional. So flop your knees to the left. Option to slide your left elbow down toward the left knee, then glide your right arm straight up. So just add in a little bend. Inhale if you haven't already. Exhale, come on back to center. Knees flop over to the right. Option to slide the right elbow down, glide your left arm up, take the inhale. Exhale, come on back. Wait, take a few of these on your own. Remember, it's legal to linger, so if you feel called to stay for an extra breath, please do. I'm listening to my body's needs, which are calling me to kind of add in a little wrist action, wrist and finger action when I reach the top arm up. So be encouraged to incorporate your own spontaneous movements if they arise. We'll finish up one more round on each side. Next time you're balanced out, you can come on back to center, slide both legs long, your arms alongside of you, taking just a breath or two in your Shavasana, observing any changes in the body. All right, let's roll over onto the left side. You're going to take your left arm, your bottom arm here, perpendicular to the floor. Then take your top hand on top. If you need a block to rest your head on or a pillow, feel free to make yourself comfortable any way that you need to. But as you hold on here, find, let's say, like 20% of your effort. So with 20% of your effort, push both hands into each other, top into the bottom. And then begin to let your top hand win, lowering down. And you might start to get a yellow light. So feel free to hang out just before you hit the red light. Then once you're stopped, take a few breaths, take a breath or two with that same level of resistance. After a full breath or two, take your journey back to the starting point. You may notice a different sensation going the opposite direction. Next time you're perpendicular again, you can stay there or add on to about 50%. So up to you, stick at the same level or add on, going about 50%. Take your time with it. And of course, stopping the range of motion right before you hit a red light. Then pausing once you've got that and practicing a few breaths in that position. Be careful not to tense the jaw or the face too much when you do this. After a breath or two, you can make your return. Same amount of effort if possible. Back to our starting point. And once you're perpendicular, you can stick with any of the levels that we've done before, or I'm going to add on, I'm going to do about 80%. Pressing both hands into each other. And taking our time with the descent. Observing all the different flavors of sensation as we go. And then stopping at the end range and practicing a breath or two. And be sure to feel the breath in your nostrils on your inhale. And hear the breath gently in your throat as you exhale. You can start to make your return. Come on back. Don't be in a rush. All right, nicely done. Next time you're perpendicular, can release onto your back. Take a breath or two to wait, watch, and feel. And we'll flip it over to the other side. Roll over onto your right side. I'm going to turn the other direction so you can see a little bit better. I'm taking your bottom arm perpendicular to the floor and Matching it with your top arm, find about 20% resistance pressing the two into each other. Once you have that level of resistance, then begin your descent. Practicing your breath as you go. Being careful not to tense the face or the skull too much. And the end range may be different for this arm. Once you're at your end range, take a breath or two. When you're ready, returning. Next time you're perpendicular to the floor, you can stick with 20% or up it to about 50%. 50% of the effort. Once you got it, start your descent. Practicing the breath as you go. And of course, hanging out at the end range for a breath or two. As you're ready, returning back to our starting point. Okay, final round. You can stick with where you're at or might up it to about 75, maybe 80%. Pushing both hands into each other to find that resistance. Continue pressing as you lower. You may encounter the urge to rush. And intentionally slowing. Pausing at your end range, pressing both hands. And returning to the starting point, slow and steady. All right, nicely done. Slowly releasing to your back, legs long, arms long. And taking in the sensations in the arms. Noticing if you've built any extra heat. You might bring the knees in, you can roll over onto your right side and come on up to a comfortable seat. So in your seat, you might be cross-legged, you might be kneeling, that's up to you. Find a comfortable placement with your hands and take some gentle neck circles. While you circle the neck, feel both of your sit bones dropping down. Notice if you're tensing the belly at all. You can encourage your navel in and up, engaging the low belly so that the hips can relax. Change directions with your circles. Noticing what part of the rotation is easier or more challenging. And finish up your last rotation here. And come on back to neutral when you're ready. All right, grab hold of your opposite shoulders here, which might feel kind of funny. Grabbing hold of opposite shoulders, feel your sit bones drop down and lift your elbows up. And it's okay if they don't go very high. Start to circle your elbows to the right. And circling down, almost as if they could sweep the ground. Using the elbow points to circle back up. And take 2 more circles in this direction. Slow and steady. See just how big of circles you can draw. Notice what parts of the circle are a little shakier, a little more wobbly than the others. And finish up the one you're on. Next time you're back in the center, reach your arms wide, big ol' stretch. You might roll out your wrist, your fingers, and switch it out. Take your opposite arm underneath, switching it up. First drop the sit bones, then we'll lift the elbows, and then circle to the left. Rounding the spine as you sweep the elbows towards the ground. Maintaining the circular direction through the elbows as we lift up. And take 2 more full circles on your own. Letting your 2 sit bones be your anchor. Continuing full breaths as you go. Awesome job. Again, once you're back at the top again, take your time, of course. The next time you're back up, you can release your arms. Very well done. Let's take the legs straight out ahead. You might hammer out the backs a bit. Give them a little shake. Then bending your knees so you've got your feet about hip distance apart. Hip distance apart. Take your hands behind you, leaning back, and you'll just drop your knees toward the right. And back to center. Toward the left. And taking just a few of these windshield wiper actions on your own. You can continue to do this. If you need to add a little bit more, you might take your hands behind your head and add in a little twist. Whichever you're choosing, moving with your breath. Observing the rotation of your thigh bones in the hip socket. Take 1 more on each side. Next time you're back to center, we'll flop the knees over towards the right so that you've got a hurdle in the back leg and kind of like a tree pose in the front leg. And we'll turn toward the right, hands frame the thigh bone. Screw your right hand into the floor like you're putting the lid on a jar. We'll keep that there and begin to slide your left arm forward. Slow and steady, relaxing your chest near the thigh, maybe even making contact with your thigh. And no worries, there's no prizes for dropping on the thigh, so all good if you're more lifted. Wherever you are, you can give your neck permission to relax, letting your head hang. You might even put a block under your forehead if you want a little extra support there. And let's enjoy some deep breathing. As you inhale, feel your belly push towards your thigh. As you exhale, lengthening your spine out from its base. And continuing to breathe here on your own, notice the floor supporting you. Allow yourself to feel rooted and supported. Knowing that gravity is holding you. Notice if you're holding any tension in the jaw or the eyes. And if so, use your exhales to dissolve any tightness there. Last few breaths here. Inhale. And slide your left hand back by your face. Use the strength of your hands to push the floor away. Returning to your seat, hands to opposite knees. You can close your eyes for a moment. Letting your body absorb the pose. Straighten both legs out ahead. You can pause momentarily, noticing the different sensations between the legs. And rebending your knees, we'll flop them over to the left side. So you've got a tree pose in your front leg and maybe a hurdle in the back if that's okay with your back knee. Then turning towards your left leg, hands frame the knee. Screw your left hand into the floor, using that as an anchor, and then begin to slide your right arm forward. I like to take this rather slowly, encouraging the back leg, the inner thigh to drop down as you go. And maybe lowering the torso over on top of the leg. Once you've kind of found your spot, you can let your head, your neck relax. Maybe that involves a block. Use your inhales to press into the low belly. And your exhales to lengthen the spine out from its base. And possibly even building that spherical, more global breath. And sensing the roundness of the lungs. And you may also take note of the ways in which time evolves the pose. In what ways do sensation change with time? Last few deep breaths here. Inhale. And take your time, slide your right hand by your face. Use the strength of your hands to push the floor away. And facing forward, hands to opposite knees. Close your eyes for a moment. Letting yourself bask in the afterglow of the pose. All right, nicely done. Let's come into tabletop, all fours. In your tabletop, again, drop your knees, or your hips rather, your hips toward the right, circling them around. Back toward the heels. And enjoy a few gentle hip circles in this direction. If you find a spot that really speaks to you, feel free to hang out with it and lean into it. And in your own time, you can change directions, taking your hip circles the opposite way. I really enjoy the challenge of keeping the index and the thumb of both hands rooted and using the hands to help steer the ship. And finish up the circle that you're on. And make your way back into table. All right, let's lift the shoulders up over the knees, coming into a kneeling position. Here in your kneeling position, we'll take a very modified version of our sun salute A. Inhale, reach your arms up, your eyes up. Let your breath be a little longer than your movement. And exhale, sit your hips back towards child's pose, looking inward, letting your hips sit. Pull yourself forward into a tabletop. Feel your sternum lengthen out from your navel. Tuck your toes under and lift up towards downward facing dog. Feel your hands push down and forward and your feet press down and back. We'll come in and out of this a few times. Tabletop on your inhale. Feel your spine lengthening. Child's pose, exhale, looking in. Inhale to kneeling as you lift up, eyes up. Exhale, sit back. Table, inhale, look up. Down dog, exhale, look in. Inhale, table. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale to lifting or to kneeling. Arms up, eyes up. Exhale, child's pose. Table, inhale. Down dog, exhale. Inhale, table. Exhale, child's. Inhale to kneeling, arms up, eyes up. And take 2 more rounds like this on your own. And if you forget the movements, feel free to check the screen. And remember, on your inhales, you're looking up. Exhales, looking in. And take your time. After your next down dog, let's meet in tabletop. Oops, I lied. Let's meet all the way in kneeling. How about that? And coming all the way to kneeling when you're ready. You can take your hands to your hips. And we'll take the right leg out to the side. And actually bend your knee so that your foot is right below its knee. And I know for me, this is usually where my hips do kind of weird things, where this one kind of bonks out to the side. So I'm going to intentionally hug that hip in so that I have more of a neutral hip situation. And then once you've got this setup here, feel your heel and your knee draw towards each other. So you have the heel pulling towards the knee and knee toward the heel. So you get this foundation of strength in the low body. Very good. Arms out to a T. Take your right arm underneath your left. Either grab opposite shoulders or take backs of hands together, possibly even palm to palm for eagle arms. Now, maintaining that strength in the legs, feel your elbows drop down and your heart lift up. Elbows down, heart up. I also like to think of the space below the navel lifting up. Once you've arrived, build your circular spherical breath. Breathing into all directions of the lungs. Last few. Wonderful job. On your next inhale, open your arms wide, big stretch. With your backhand to your waist, let's rest the front elbow onto the knee. And I've got the palm up here. Now what automatically happens is the chest kind of rolls down. So instead, I'm going to press the top elbow, press the top shoulder up and back. And for some of us, this might be a great place to stay. I'm actually going to grab my handy dandy block and place a block inside of the foot. So either staying here, rolling the chest open, or maybe taking your hand inside on the block. Maybe even lowering the block if you've got long arms like me. Now we can stay here, or take the back arm here in Tadasana. Back arm in Tadasana, and then sweep that top arm overhead. Now while you're here, you're pushing your front arm and leg into each other and extending through the top arm, big reach through the side body. You can look down for more grounding or up if you'd like more invigorating. And for the cherry on top, you might pull your front heel, back knee towards each other. Practicing your breath, let's feel the breath in the nostrils as we inhale. Hear it in your throat as you exhale. Last few. Inhale. Pull yourself back up. Nicely done. Let's take the knees together. Go ahead and sit back with your arms alongside of you in a proper child's pose. Child's pose with the arms along the body. Let the breath settle. And observe, where do you feel the pose, if anywhere? All right, other side. Lift yourself back up into your kneeling position. And we'll take the left leg out to the side. We're going to set it up so that we've got the heel right below the knee. There's a tendency to have it further out or maybe closer in. So you can use your screen to line it up right below. All right, arms wide to a T, stretching through tips of fingers. We'll take left arm under right this time, maybe shoulders, backs of hands, palm to palm. First, draw your heel and knee towards each other, maintain that. And then as you drop your elbows down toward the ground, lift your heart up toward the ceiling. So very much a balance of opposites here. You may even feel the space below the navel start to lift as well. Building once more your spherical breath. Last few. Inhale. Exhale, release. Nicely done. Arms wide. We'll take our back hand to our hip and the front hand inside of your knee. Now use your hand to push into your knee and then your knee into your hand. So resisting the two into each other. This might be where you stay, or elbow to knee, or option for the block, resting it inside of the leg. But do roll your top shoulder back behind you, almost like there was a wall behind you that you're leaning your top shoulder into. You can stay or take your back arm in Tadasana, squeeze front heel, back knee together, and then consider sweeping the arm up overhead for the extension. Practicing your breath when you arrive, and finding a comfortable gaze for the eyes. Shedding any tension through the jaw or face. Inhale. Wonderful job. Exhale, pull yourself on up. Whew. Again, bring yourself back to kneeling, and we'll take a child's pose, resting the forehead, resting the shoulders. Let all the efforts go. Again, roll yourself up to a kneeling position. Very well done. That's not easy stuff. And let's come onto the belly. So once you're on your belly, you can take your hands, start out with them below your shoulders, and then we'll slide them back so they're more perpendicular to the ground. So hands right below the elbows. Now screw your hands into the floor, almost like you're putting lids on jars, my favorite thing to say. Press, or actually let's lift one leg at a time and stretch it back. So you're just getting a little more length through the fronts of the hips. Maybe take two on each side. Then press your hips down, press the tops of your feet down. Inhale, lift your right leg. Find lots of length. Exhale, release. Inhale, lift your left leg, feeling your right foot push down for more support. Exhale, release. Nicely done. Inhale, lift both legs. Feel the heels of your hands screw into the floor. Maybe your big toes touch. Exhale, release. Pressing the tops of your feet down. Inhale to lift your chest and heart. Stay for the exhale. Feel the elbows squeeze towards each other. Stay for about 2 more breaths. Feeling the tops of your feet pressing down. Deep inhale. Exhale, lower down. Rest your right cheek to the floor. Switch it out. Rest your left cheek. Right, chin back to the mat. Inhale, lift both feet. Push into your hands, lifting your chest until the tops of your feet drop down, so a little higher through your cobra. Squeeze the elbows in, feel your heart lifting, your hands pulling back. Holding for a breath or two. Notice the weight in your hands. Can you push through index and thumb? How are the legs doing? Can you push the tops of the feet more so the knees are lifted? Once more, inhale. Slowly lowering on the exhale. Stack one hand on top of the other. You can rest your forehead onto your hands. All right, nicely done. So we've been playing a lot with our hip mobility today. We're gonna continue with that. I'm gonna scooch over onto the left side of the mat here so that I'm more on, so I've got the ground closer to me. All right, this is a weird one, but here we go. Bend your left knee and start to slide your knee up. So I'm pushing my inner thigh toward the ground as I slide up. And it can be helpful to put if you're sticking to the floor, like a blanket or something slidey, something slidey underneath you. So then once you lift your left leg up, push your inner thigh down toward the ground. Push your inner thigh down toward the ground. Take an inhale to your low belly. Keep pushing as you exhale, slide your leg back to the starting point. slide your leg back to the starting point. So we're brushing all of the lymph nodes that reside on the inner thighs. Inhale, find the movement, come on up. And I like to take it a little less high with each one, so a little less dramatic with each lift. Exhale, slide back. And so take this at your own pace. And so a little less dramatic with each breath, maybe, if that's what you're into. And I actually find that the less of the angle, the more challenging it is for me. And you might have the same experience, you might have the opposite experience, but just notice what it is for you. Feeling the friction of the slide, the brushing of the lymph nodes and the inner thighs. Such good stuff. Last, we'll say last two. And don't forget, when you're in that inhale, really pushing the inner thigh down, really pressing inner thigh into the earth. Last one. Next time you're back at our starting point, you can rest. Take a moment to feel any little pulses or tingling going on in the left inner thigh there. And oh, so gracefully, we're going to shimmy scoot to the other side of the mat so that the right leg can be on the floor or blanket or pillow or whatever you need to help you slide. And we'll start to bend the right knee and slide the knee up toward the elbow. And it's okay if it doesn't get anywhere near there. Sliding it up. Once it's bent, push your inner thigh down. And let's hold the first one. Push your inner thigh down. Feel the contact with your thigh bone, your femur, and the floor. Now let's take an inhale to fill up the low belly. Exhale, start to slide the leg back. Pushing the inner thigh all the way as you go back to starting point. Each inhale, you'll bend and slide. Pushing down. Each exhale, you'll push and straighten. And taking just a few of these on your own. You might adjust the angle at which you're bending. I find that the less or the lower I keep the leg, the less high I slide the leg up, the harder it is. And with that challenge comes more sensation, especially when you're pushing the inner thigh down on the inhale. And we'll say 2 more on this side. You take your time. Next time you're back at our starting point with legs straight, pause there. Take a moment to feel how the body processes the pose. Where do you feel it? Hands below the shoulders. Go ahead and lift yourself back into your tabletop. Come on into all fours. Take your right knee forward and go ahead and flop onto your side. We're going to take our 90-90 position, which if you've taken my classes before, you might know the drill. You're going to take your front leg in this in line with the short edge of your mat, and then your back leg is kind of mirrored. If that's just not happening today, then your back knee can come a little closer toward the front, so it's less extreme of an angle there. So make it yours. Then facing forward, take your hands alongside of you. Feel your hands pull back and your heart lift up. Awesome. Now feel your back inner thigh dropping down. Back inner thigh dropping down. That's an internal rotation. and your front inner thigh is opening up and out. So we got external rotation in the front, internal rotation in the back, letting the bones drop and get heavy. Now, as we stay here, I'm gonna offer some additions, and they're totally optional, so feel free to skip them. One option is to lean forward slightly, lift your back heel up off the ground, and set it back down. So leaning forward is helpful with that, and then you might just take 5 slow and steady reps. I'm noticing my weight leaning off to the side, so I'm kind of redirecting toward the center with my torso. I find it helpful to flare the toes, the back toes there, putting a little more life in the feet. Awesome job. So you can stay still, continue with that, or another option is once your back heel is lifted, you might release your hands to heart, you might lift your knee and set it down, set it down. So either that, or you might take a few reps just lifting the knee. And I'm noticing my body kind of going off to the side, which is not the end of the world. So I'm gonna try to stay center. Nice. Whew. Awesome job. All right, that's enough of that. So we're going to swing the leg all the way around, coming into easy pose, which is fancy for crisscross applesauce. So one thing that often happens here is we have like the ankles crossed. The ankles crossed and like close to the body. So instead of that, I'll come to the side. So we got this. Instead of that, I'm gonna wiggle my feet forward, wiggle forward, and then out to the side more. Awesome, yeah. So forward and out to the side so you get more of this, more parallel with the short edge of the mat. So once you've got that, flex your feet a lot and push the outer edges of your feet to the ground. Flex your feet a lot, push the outer edges of the feet into the ground. With your hands to the floor, feel your hands pull back, your heart forward. I like to turn the tail back, so it's almost like a cobra pose in the low back. I guess the upper back as well. You can stay here, or you can play with sliding your hands forward. And those of you that have the Agni Stambhasana, which is the heel stacked above the knee, you know the drill. You can do the double stack if you like, but I find that easy pose is fiery enough. Notice if you've lost the feet, and if so, reaffirm outer edges of the feet down. Breathing into the outer glutes. And for your last few breaths, you might consider elbows to the floor, dragging the elbows back, finding this kind of sphinx pose in the chest. And of course, if you have a block, you might do block under the forearms to help bring the ground closer. Inhale. Exhale to slowly release. You can walk your hands back in, coming back up into easy pose. Nicely done. On your inhale, you can, let's lift up through the right arm. Exhale, gentle twist toward the left. Just taking your hand outside your knee if possible. Back arm can rest wherever's clever. Finding your spherical breath. Breathing into the tenderness, the softness of the twist. Inhale. Exhale, slowly release back to center, hands to the knees. Take a moment to feel. Nicely done. You can send your front leg, your left leg back into that zigzag formation. And however you want to get there, let's just come on back into our tabletop. In your tabletop, you might take a little lateral movements, just kind of shake it off. Then we'll switch it out. Take your left knee forward this time. Left knee forward, and then lean onto your left hip, coming into our 90-90 formation. So our front shin is in line with the short edge of your mat, and your back leg, your back thigh bone is mirroring if possible. If that's just not feeling good, then your back knee will come closer towards your front heel. So up to you. Now turning to face forward, take your hands to the ground for support. So your spine is kind of straight ahead at 12 o'clock. And we take our time to ease into it. So feel your back thigh bone rolling in and down toward the floor. Back thigh bone rolling down toward the floor. And your front thigh bone is rolling open and out. You've got external rotation in the front rolling open, internal rotation in the back rolling inward. And while you're holding these points of alignment, bring ease into your breath. And this might be a great place for you to stay, right? Hang out with it. I highly recommend this like 2 minutes a day, every day. But you can stay with that and hold, or with your hands down, leaning forward, lift your back heel. I find it helpful to flare the toes, and then I'll slow and with control lower it down. So moving slowly and mindfully, taking, we'll say 5 lifts of the heels. And it's you know, you can move from your foot, which is fine, or you could also kind of move from the glute. So your glute is there to support you. And if that doesn't make sense today, that's okay. Definitely had things that didn't make sense for a few years, and then all of a sudden it clicks and you're like, oh, that's what the heck that means. So being patient with whatever it means today. All right, you can continue with that, or next time your heel is lifted, you might remove your hands leaning forward and lift the knee, slowly setting down. So just adding another component after you lift the heel, lift the knee, set it down. So you've got 3 more of those. I'm noticing this side is a totally different story than my other side, which I always find so fascinating. So the more challenging side, I like to say, is the side that needs more love. The side that needs a little more patience, which admittedly the first few years of my practice, it was the side that was more cursing and swearing. So reprogramming that. All right, nice work. That's enough of that. Go ahead and swing your back leg around, coming into easy pose. In easy pose, we've got the legs crossed, and I'm wiggling my feet so they're out. So instead of heels in, wiggle, 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 wiggle. So they're more in line with the knees. And it's okay if they're nowhere near that, but have that in mind. So with your hands next to you, feel your hands back, your heart forward. Flex your feet, pushing the outer edges of your feet down to the ground. You may feel that opening up the lateral lines of the body. And you can stay in this more upright position, or you might explore sliding your hands forward. I like to turn the tailbone back, so it's got this quality of up dog or cobra. You can scan your body here, see just how many details you can take in. You can stay where you're at, or if you did on the other side, you might do elbows to the floor or the block, pulling your elbows back towards your shins to bring your heart forward, adding an element of Sphinx pose. Inhale. Exhale to release. You can slide your hands back in, taking hands to the knees, pausing briefly, letting yourself feel any changes in the body. Inhale your left arm up overhead. And gently twisting toward the right, you can take your elbow outside the leg if that feels good. Back arm can go wherever is natural. And softening the spine into the twist. Now the right hip usually wants to twist back with you, so you might very gently encourage your right hip forward. Not shoving it, but just gently dropping. And play with finding your global breath. Breathing in the round. Inhale. Exhale, release back to center. Pausing for a moment. Nicely done. Both legs can go straight out ahead. Do a little time check. Whew. Go ahead and roll yourself down onto your back. And once you get there, take your legs straight up overhead. Legs straight up overhead. We did a lot of work with the low body today. So we'll use this legs up the wall as an unloading of the legs. As you're ready, you can bend your knees. Option for happy baby, you can either hold inside your knees or you can hold your feet. That's up to you. But whichever you choose, flatten your low back toward the mat. You're welcome to rock side to side. You might also play with straightening one or both legs at a time. And of course, if there's any other poses that you need to make your practice feel complete, you're always welcome to do anything that you're called to. Otherwise, in your own time, you can release your legs long, your arms long, and settling into your Shavasana. Once you've arrived, you can drop the jaw, relax the eyes, and soften the bones. Allow all the muscles to become light. And we take the time here to practice listening, taking in all the details of your immediate experience. And each time a thought arises, you can bow your head to it and allow it to pass just as quickly as it comes. And returning back to the state of neutral observation. I'll wake you in just a moment when we're through. You're welcome to stay as long as you'd like. If you're ready, Again, start to wake up the body any way that feels natural for you. Deepening the sound of the breathing. Maybe taking a full body stretch. With your knees in, roll to your right side. When you're ready, come on up to a seat. Eyes closed, palms connected together at the heart, bowing your chin inward. May we continue to practice our listening as we move through the week. May we notice our barriers to listening and taking a few moments to pause, to get quiet, that we may be open and receptive to our highest self, open and receptive to the wisdom and the unconditional love that always surrounds us, knowing that the only key that we need is silence itself. Thank you so much for joining us today. Namaste.